Could be an existing paying customer of yours, or could be a prospect if you're in the sales world. Now, when you unpack the rapport a little more, there's a personal rapport and there's a business rapport. And personal rapport is about being friends with people, very likable inherently, and having a conversation and all of that. A lot of times we tend to overestimate that. While it is important, just being a likable person does not get you to the outcomes that both you, your business, and your client person and their business where they want to go. So let's not over-index too much on the personal rapport while giving it due respect. It's more about the business rapport. We're not personally friends. We are talking about exchanging of value. I, as a service provider, need to deliver value to my client, and my client appreciates that value in return. That's a successful exchange that's happening, right? Now,
your business's success depends on relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Ponto. Each week I bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week I'm excited to connect with Sreedhar Peddineni. He has built 3 companies from scratch. That's the resume version. The more interesting version is this. He keeps seeing the same problem. People in business without the right infrastructure to succeed. And he keeps building the operating system to fix it. He co-founded Host Analytics in 2001, helping finance teams stop living in spreadsheets. Then in 2011, he co-founded Gainsight, where he served as CTO for 8 years and helped coin the term customer success manager. That company didn't just build software, it built an entire category. Now he's doing it again with Go-to-Market Buddy, a revenue enablement platform designed to help sales reps actually be effective, not just busy. What drives Sreedhar isn't the exits or the category creation, it's the people, the teams, the chance to work alongside great humans and give something back. He tell you that that's the whole point. After 25 years of building, he still means it. Congrats on your impactful career and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
thank you so much for having me, Carl. Really appreciate it. Glad to be here.
You're welcome. I'm really excited to have you on because I think it is what's definitely true between Gainsight and what you're doing now with Go-to-Market Buddy is the importance of relationships in driving revenue enablement, and something that a lot of companies seem to be ill-equipped for and not investing in enough with their businesses. So tell me more about how your experience and what you see is the importance of building relationships when it comes to helping businesses succeed.
Great question. I do see the common thread as one founded based on empathy for customers, if you will. Call it customers or prospects. At the end of the day, it's a human having a conversation with another human. You're talking about a customer success manager, a CSM, working with their clients, and they're talking to another human being, a champion, right? So at some level, we talk about human relationship that's getting built, more of personal rapport. That's good. That's important. But we're also looking at a shared understanding of the business. Share in terms of what are my champion's objectives. I'm supporting this customer as the CSM, and that champion there, my champion, has a job to do. And he or she wants to grow in her career, be positioned well. How do we align on that person's innate need to deliver value to the company? And how do I make that data-driven? How do I become contextual? That's an example of that's the role of a CSM, right? It's not about I become best buddies with my clients. It's more about understanding what the client needs and how do we deliver on that needs and prove the value. If I were to fast forward a little bit with GTM Buddy's context, you're talking about that same thing for a customer success enablement perspective. How do you get the CSMs to deliver that value? But also in terms of salespeople, when you're having prospects, how do I connect with the prospects at a level where they believe that, yes, this person that I'm talking to understands me, understands my business needs, not being overly salesy, talking my language. Now,
it's something that I think so many people, they are so used to seeing the interaction from their perspective, from their needs, whether it's a salesperson, I need to close this sale, I want to meet a quota, or it's a CSM that has, they're trying to get through a certain number of meetings or get their own internal metrics to look a certain way. But by staying so focused on them and their own needs, they miss out on a chance to actually deliver real value and be successful, because when people can tell when have your own best interest in mind and not theirs. And then whether it's with a prospect that you're trying to sell something to, or with an existing client you're trying to get a renewal from, if you come from that standpoint of just caring about your results, then you're setting yourself up for failure. And compared to when you really are meeting people where they are and are being curious and are showing that, like I said, you actually understand what they need and you're interested in learning how you can deliver that value in a way that's best for them, not just for yourself.
Yep. So just building on that call, my CRO has this way. We spend a lot of time talking. He uses the word rapport very deliberately. Says that in sales or customer success roles, ultimately it's about building rapport with your clients. Could be an existing paying customer of yours, or could be a prospect if you're in the sales world. Now, when you unpack the rapport a little more, there's a personal rapport and there's a business rapport. And personal rapport is about being friends with people, very likable inherently, and having a conversation and all of that. A lot of times we tend to overestimate that. While it is important, just being a likable person does not get you to the outcomes that both you, your business, and your client person and their business where they want to go. So let's not over-index too much on the personal rapport while giving it due respect. It's more about the business rapport. We're not personally friends. We are talking about exchanging of value. I, as a service provider, need to deliver value to my client, and my client appreciates that value in return. That's a successful exchange that's happening, right? Now, in that context, the whole thing revolves around what is the context of my client, be it a prospect or a customer. And how educated am I as a CSM or as a seller or as an SDR, whatever my GTM role is, do I understand the context of my customer? That becomes mission critical. That's a necessary ingredient to building that relationships. And a lot of times people underinvest on building that context. I've seen too many relationship focused sellers and CSMs where they talk a lot. They build that relationships at a personal level, but miss this equation of the context building. And ability to build and maintain that context of if I'm supporting 20 clients, 30 clients, 60 clients, how do I manage that information in my head? That's where systems starts coming into play. That's where AI can become your friend if used well, if used right.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of potential, and what you're doing with Go-to-Market Buddy is a good example of tools that aren't replacing the human element in the sales or the relationship building part for a CSM, but it's allows you to get more of the context and understand and crunch all the data and the context around the business side of the relationship, the transactional side, in a way that helps you frame the value you can deliver with that layer of personal rapport, as you put it, so that it's received as a way of as being something that has the client's best interest in mind, and it shows you understand them, and it shows that, and it has that personal touch. Then, so it doesn't just, oh, this is just a template that we spit out for every single prospect, and maybe it'll fit, maybe it won't, but it really shows that you're working to understand them. But then the tool allows the reps, or the people on your team, to spend more time with the conversations, to ask the right questions, to build the personal and professional rapport, rather than trying to rush through it all because they're so busy with on the back end stuff and all the data entry and logging that often can eat up a ton of a person's time. And so it's a matter of understanding the strengths of your team members, and then having the right tools that free up them to do more of what they're good at and what the tools themselves aren't capable of handling, which is that relationship building side of things.
Make it a little concrete. In terms of every customer that we talk to would appreciate if I come across as a person who has taken the time and effort to learn about their company, about themselves personally and professionally, exhibit that I understand some level of empathy for their role, what they could be going through. Not saying that I've become a mind reader, but just if there is a realization that I made an effort to understand them, that goes in terms a long way in terms of starting to build the trust. Now, what happens with people? You're just before this conversation, you were talking about CSMs who are managing 60 customers. Now, is it realistic for a human to maintain the context of all the 60 people when they're getting from back-to-back calls from one customer to another?
Yeah, no, I can't handle it myself. I'm just going through networking calls, let alone paid clients, and I'm trying to be super deep conversations. It's hard to keep track of all that stuff in your head.
Yeah, 100%. That's an area where should we burden our minds about, how do I leverage tech for it? Tech is it means to an end. The end is to help us. At least that's what we want the tech to be, right? So the context engineering part of it right now, if you were to look at any of the AI, leaving all the buzz and hype and doomsday scenarios, all of that aside, we all know that AI can be a good research assistant for me. It can mine data, it can report back on the data that I provide to it. So if I were to give point the AI the right way, and if I have the right solution, whether I could build it myself with vibe coding, or I could buy a product like a GTM Buddy or another, which basically looks at the data and understands my context, reads my calendar, and says that, hey, you have got 6 meetings today, back to back. You're not going to be preparing for each one of these meetings, but let me do the prep for you. I would read your calendar, identify that these are the 6 meetings with 6 different clients. And I will do the research for you from the data sources that you have connected me to and give you a gist of what has happened thus far, what was the last conversation, and here is what you need to have an answer for the client. And it does it for you automatically. It gets delivered to you as an email digest. And it shows up on your calendar as a meeting prep, which gives you, you're getting into a call. Here is the 5 things that you need to know about this call. Here's what you say, which makes you that much, help you connect with the prospect or the customer that you're talking to that much more.
Yeah, I think it helps give you that context or where to start the conversation so that you're not coming from, what do we want to talk about again? Which is, and this shows that you don't really understand or care about the person you're talking to. And it also helps you get to the point where you're able to ask more pointed questions to help uncover the real needs that people have, whether it's in a sales conversation or in a client management conversation, because the people are often afraid or don't want to dive too deep or kind of dig up necessarily make it uncomfortable. They want everyone to be comfortable during the meetings just because people like to be comfortable. But in both the sales context and in a client success context, if you're not addressing the real pain points, which are going to be uncomfortable, you're not solving a real problem, you're not delivering real value. And so you're either going to miss the sale because they don't see the value, or they're going to not renew because you're not getting ROI from the investment. And so I can see if you're trying to come up with what questions to ask, having more valuable and relevant context for where the relationship is at is what gets you to those sort of questions quicker and allows you to understand more of what they're feeling and likely going through so that you can touch those uncomfortable subjects quicker and get to the value add and little tweaks you might need to make, or what you can offer that'll solve a real problem for them, because that's what people are there for, what they're paying for, or they're going to pay for you for, not because they want to have comfortable CSM meetings where they're going to check all the boxes on a quarterly report and then go back to their office and are still struggling with the same issues they had before they met with you.
Yep. So the building on that, the understanding of the context is mission critical. The context of my prospect and each of my client, prospect or client, I'm using these words interchangeably depending on if you're talking about a customer success manager or you're talking about a salesperson, right? That context management becomes the key. I've got a lot of information in my company about the content collaterals that we have created, all the dashboards that I have and all of that. But that needs to be connected to the meeting that I have with this human being and this client and surface up in terms of, okay, here is the persona that I am talking to and here is what the person cares about. Is there something that comes to me as a prescriptive guidance that I can look at, reinforce the learning that I have gone through, all the training that has been given to me, and acts as a checklist on the fly to me? And what does it do for me right after the call? So especially in the world of CS and sales, we jump from one meeting to another frequently, quickly. Now, every meeting has its own action items that come with, that we're supposed to follow upon and all of that. Now, how do we automate that work? Those are some real concrete use cases. Like in the case of, let's say, a salesperson, after a sales call, what do we expect the account executive to do? Go ahead and create an internal update, right? Because people don't listen to all the gong calls that are recorded, and there are hundreds of calls every day. Not everybody is going to listen. If it's an important deal for my manager, I need to send a summary. I need to update the CRM. I need to follow up with the client on the questions that they had asked me. I need to update the digital sales room. I need to update my deal health score from a MedPIC compliance perspective. This is a number of tasks. This is not busy work. This is important work. But can we automate that with AI? This is not going to be a blind automation, but intelligent automation is what we're talking about.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, really valuable to have that, because especially if you're going between different meetings or just even the kind of context that you're in from one meeting to the next. If you're like you're moving rooms in an office, or if you're going to different locations, if you're not able to record the information, those notes right away, I know from the way like the brain works, when you walk through a doorway, your brain immediately dumps your memory for what you were doing in the previous room, because it's wants to assess the new room for threats. So you're less like, and even for like a big conference, like you go to watch a keynote, by the time you got to your car after a big conference day, your brain is dumped like 70% of the information. By the next morning, you've forgotten like 90% of it, unless you wrote it down during the event. So the amount of information that teams lose if they're not able to take notes or have the recording or like stuff right after a meeting happens, then there's so many opportunities for error there, because your brain is just not able to process and hold it all unless you write it down right away. And if your schedule is back to back, or you have to go get in the car and drive to another meeting, you're not going to be able to remember it all by yourself, because our brains just we're not wired to do that sort of rote memorization on the fly like that. And so having a tool that can automate that step is really important, because it, again, frees you up to be more refreshed for the next meeting, rather than trying to scribble down notes and be compacting what needs to be very like detailed note taking and remembering of key points from a previous meeting, and trying to cram that into the time you should be prepping for the next one, that sort of thing. So it's, again, allowing you and your teams to operate on the level that they're more adept at, and not try and force them to do these tasks that are not in their strong suit.
You touched upon many important things there. You talked about forgetting people losing 80% of what they learned within 30 minutes of going through a training program. I've worked on, you alluded to the brain dumping that information out, and we start forgetting things. Therefore, that's so true in terms of, if you apply that to the world of customer success and sales, we're talking about information that I get trained on about my product, value proposition, client personas, their pain points, case studies, how do you do some specific jobs, so much of training that we receive, and a lot of that is forgotten. And the only thing that stays is if you are able to deliver that, reinforce that learning periodically when I need it. We all learn the best when we need some information. Then I'm presented that with that information. That's when I learn the best. That's true for many, many people out there. So that's this context engineering that we're talking about, contextual delivery of information that I need to know in the moment of need, in the workflow. That's what we do. That's our business at GTM Buddy. That's something that's passionate to my heart in terms of how do you elevate the human performance by equipping them with the right information at the right time, delivered in their workflow.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for connecting with me today, Sreedhar. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection Podcast, please like, leave a comment, and subscribe. If you want to connect with either of us, check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.